Well, Shawn Lewis, Rich Winter from 605 Sports, and I just kind of wanted to catch up to you. The state dual tournaments are tomorrow, and I don't know what's your level of excitement like heading into the state duels.
Oh, definitely excited. I mean, just to have state duels on a different weekend where you're not, necessarily trying to plan for an individual in a dual state tournament. Uh, so far, really excited. First round getting to see a different opponent than we've ever had the chance to duel before. So, looking forward to wrestle West Central and see somebody new and just kind of see this whole new experience of having the duels separated because we've been working on this for a really long time about getting them separated. So, just excited to see how it all comes together.
It's kind of interesting. I'm looking at the Class A bracket, and I guess going back to the East-West duels that you guys hosted a few weeks ago. After that tournament or after those duels, it was kind of clear as mud as to who was going to win the state dual tournament because anybody can beat anybody in that top 4 or 5, and I think it makes for a really exciting tournament in the Class A brackets. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, matchups are everything. So, when you got one team that's just got some different matchups for a different team, it poses, just some different issues. And so, I mean, that's kind of the fun part about duels is you just match up differently with each team. So, I mean, after, East West, you saw us lose to Sturgis. You saw Sturgis lose to Aberdeen. Right? So you kind of you don't really know. We had the opportunity to wrestle in Aberdeen kind of earlier in the year, and so we had beaten Aberdeen. You take that following week, Brandon had beaten us, and yet Aberdeen beats Brandon. You just don't really know. So I mean, that's ultimately why you got to wrestle them, and I think that's what makes the dual state tournament all that more fun.
So one thing I wanted to comment on, it's going to take me a minute to ask this question. The Badlands Brawlers were dueling winter area I don't know, 3 weeks ago or whatever, and they ended up tied. And they went back through criteria, and it came back to pins, I guess. But one thing that, as Jody Brozick and I were kind of dissecting that, was every point matters. Like if you don't give up a major decision, that's the next extra point. Or if you don't get technical fall, then like what do you tell your wrestlers, I guess, in terms of a little bit of strategy, in terms of paying attention to those little things like that?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we talk about. We kind of break it down to just not necessarily every single match matters, but basically every single position. Uh, if you want to work yourself through criteria, I mean, you can make yourself dizzy in the head trying to go through all of it, but you've got to win more matches than the other team. Even if you're scoring the same points, so you win more matches, you got that. You need to have more falls, so it's all about bonus points, and you got to have more techs, you got to have more majors, you got to ultimately, then when you get deep into the criteria, you got to have more first points scored
Mhm.
uh, than the other team. So, I mean, you can kind of get caught up in it, but it's just trying to preach and teach offensive and aggressive wrestling. So go score first, score last, score as much as you can. And, then not be dumb as well, as there's this whole list of penalty points and charts that you go through at the beginning. So, the kids can't lose their head, the coaches can't lose their head. And so you've got all of those things kind of at the beginning. And then, ultimately let the matches take care of themselves.
And then there's the strategy part of it. It's fun to see people bump up weight classes and mix their lineup up and do some different things within that. Like, how much do you pay attention to that? And I mean, how much are you scheming? Scheming is not the right word, but thinking about that as you head into the state dual tournament.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you call it scheming. That's what it is. I mean, you're scheming up another team.
Yeah.
I just think back to when I was in high school. I wrestled 160 pounds, and we had our state dual tournament the day before the individual tournament. So I'm qualified for the state dual tournament at 160 pounds, but I weighed in at like 163. So I was over the 160. So I was wrestling 71, but then I would bump up to like 89 in duels and wrestle guys. And something that I was always willing to do, to be able to create matchups to help our team out. And so it's something, I mean, that we've embraced as a team to be able to do as well. We did a little bit of it in the duel versus Sturgis, just trying to see some different matchups. Uh, that's kind of the thing is you want to put guys up against different guys, style wise, technical wise, just to be able to maximize or minimize those points. And so, I think it's something that with the dual tournament not counting towards state seeds and then realistically, not counting towards or against anybody's dissension plan for the week. I think we have the possibility, not saying it'll happen, but for you to see some very, very interesting matchups that you
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily see in an individual tournament.
How's the health of the Pierre wrestling team? I mean, have you guys, are you solid up and down the lineup? Everybody healthy?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we're about as well as we can be. We had sickness roll through about, right after East-West duels, and really battled that for quite a while, for about 2 weeks, and it seems like we've gotten the majority of the crud through the room. We lost Hudson Schaefer early in the year. He got his knee tweaked at Rapid City Invite. I think it was in the quarters. Yeah, it was in the quarters. He won that match. Just kind of his knee pulled and was wrong, hurt it pop. Tore his MCL. Really, I mean, not a common injury. Typically, if you're going to see an MCL, the ACL and goes with it. So he rested for a bunch of weeks, and then they tried to see if he would recovery wise come back, but it never did bounce back. So he ended up having surgery. That's kind of a big piece that we've been missing. Our heavyweight tore his labrum in the Aberdeen Central duel very early in the year, so we've been battling. Without our initial heavyweight, we got another a wrestler back in the room who has wrestled for us previous, and so we've done a few things with some guys sliding our lineup up and down to be able to compensate. But for the most part, these are guys we've had since January, and those are the guys we're going to roll with.
So I had the opportunity to speak with your children about a week ago, working on an article for Win Magazine Wrestling, South Dakota USA Wrestling, and I don't know if people know, but your daughter's undefeated, tearing it up. I kind of, when I talked to Trey, I said, "Man, you smack people when you play football," and he kind of chuckled. I'm thinking he's going to have a good career. But what's it like as a dad and a coach, senior boy Trey coming to the end of his high school wrestling career?
A little bit emotional. Just I've wrestled with him for a long time. He's been in the varsity room since he was an 8th grader, and then kind of had 2 years where just injuries had happened and things like that, and kind of sitting behind. So really, he's made the most of the last 2 years. He's grown as a person. I mean, I don't think there's another coach out there who doesn't like and respect the way that he goes about his business and handles himself on the wrestling mat. So it is bittersweet. At the end of his football, I backed away and didn't coach football this last year, and was just a parent for the most part, because I just wanted to watch, kind of play that role I'd never played before. And we got to the Dome and him playing there. So I was just under the understanding if he was going to be able to play football in the future, and I was going to be able to watch him. And kind of coming up on these last 3 weeks of the season now, knowing that these are the last opportunities that I'm going to be able to wrestle with him in the room and see him compete in a singlet, it is a little, emotional and bittersweet. And, I do have daughters who have now, thank goodness that we sanctioned girls wrestling in South Dakota. So still going to be able to watch and see them, work and go through, even though I don't have anything to do with the girls program. We have fantastic coaches that do that. But it's going to be a little bit emotional for the last few weeks.
Well, Coach Shawn Lewis, I'm excited for the duels tomorrow. Like I've been jonesing for a couple of days, and I feel it coming. I wanted to say thank you for joining me here on 605 Sports, and good luck in the dual tournaments this weekend. We'll be watching.
Absolutely appreciate it, and appreciate the coverage you've been giving wrestling on 605 Sports. It's appreciated by a lot of people.